The Galactic Hub. This sounds like some sort of intergalactic YouTube. Interesting. So, Series 9, Episode 5, The Girl Who Died. Now, I'm just going to start off. I was busy yesterday, so I'm doing this today, so I have seen The Woman Who Lived. And I'm not sure if we should call this a two-part, because it isn't really two-part. It does say to be continued, but then again, The Woman Who Lived doesn't contain Clara, and there is no previously, so I think it's just one of those things where they said they're gonna get back to it. But that being said, it is a good episode, and I'm not surprised because it was written by Jamie Matheson, who wrote Mummy on the Orient Express and Flatline, who I still to this day enjoy watching. And it just shows how good his writing is, because I'm not bored by those episodes, and they just make great repeat viewings. But this one isn't his best work, but I'm not gonna completely blame that on him, because it was also written by Stephen Moffat, the one who made the Sonic Shades. But I'm going to say it was Jamie Matheson's idea to destroy them. Yep. A Viking, who we will not know the name of, just randomly destroyed those shades. Best bit of the episode, like, hands down, best bit of the episode. This automatically gets a score above 5. Like, that earns it 5 points already. Just brilliant. Amazing. Anyway, to the cast. Pig Poldy. He gets a lot to do this episode, but that scene where he's talking about his face and how he could have saved a shielder, good scene, and he performs it well, but could have been a bit longer. And he has a lot of chemistry with Maisie Williams, and they do a good job together, but sometimes I just feel like they got to fill the 45-minute mark, so they just get information out as fast as they can. Like the scene when they're explaining the face, it's just done in literally 2-minute scene. I'll get back to that later. Jenna Coleman, she's like last week's Clara. She's good, and she manages to... She's obviously learned a lot because she can hold her own against aliens. And she says that I'm wearing a spacesuit, I'm clearly not part of them. And she clearly knows how to negotiate a way out of aliens. And then a Viking goes and tells her that they're declaring war on her. Well done. Maisie Williams is a shielder. Yeah, she does well. To be honest, this is the first time I've ever seen her in anything. I don't watch Game of Thrones, which I think I'm the only one in the country who doesn't. And she was in a program on Channel 4 called Cyberbully. I didn't watch that either, so I was essentially going in this as somebody who never seen her before. She does well, and she clearly is good at doing the naive, nervous person who's clearly good at imagination, especially with the false Odin puppet. I don't think that's what she's like in Game of Thrones. Now, there are a bunch of Vikings like Lofty, Heidi, and that, but they're not really that memorable. The only one who really is Ashilda's father, Chuckles, played by Ian Cunningham. He does well. And the others, yes, they do well, but they're not really that memorable. And that's kind of a problem considering they're sort of the main bulk of the episode. And the villains. Odin, played by David Schofield. He does well. Now, Odin was originally supposed to be played by Brian Blessed. That would have been amazing. Unfortunately, he had to pull out due to illnesses, so David Schofield was brought in. He does a good job, but the scene where he reveals the face under the hologram, what does it look like? Does it look like the other Myers? Does it, or does it look like something completely different? I feel like there was a deleted scene that would have showed the face or what was under there, and they just left it on a cutting room floor. Now, Ed Bazalgette directs this episode. I do believe he directed the prequel to The Magician's Apprentice, The Doctor's Meditation, which I did not watch, but I'm trying to. He does good, and especially the battle scenes and the scene where Ashilda makes that giant dragon snake thing appear. That was very well directed, but to probably my biggest problem with the episode, the Maya. I know they're supposed to be one of the biggest warrior races in the galaxy, a bit like the Sontarans, but I feel like they were a bit too easily defeated. Like, they killed the Viking warriors and that was about it. They didn't really kill any of the villagers. And that was surprising, considering half the episode was basically like How to Train Your Dragon, really. The Doctor knows how to do something and he tries to teach the others how to do it, and comedy ensues. But the humour in this episode was pretty good. Like when Lofty has a baby, and the 12th Doctor, obviously, he's not one of those people who are very sociable. To be honest, he'd probably sit on his own and get along. And I love it. And this was... Peabody delivered this perfectly. Like, they're in his tent and they saw Lofty carrying a baby, and his first conclusion is that Lofty stole it. Because, obviously, this Doctor doesn't really think that most people can be fathers. He sort of takes assumptions and then sticks with it. But that was just hilarious. The other joke that one of it fell flat was the scene when the Doctor was like, okay, let's move on to the real swords. Cut away, and then we see Lofty fainted and the village on fire. That would have worked, but then Clara had to explain everything, and most people know that explaining a joke doesn't make it funny. That just ruins it. And she goes into quite a lot of detail, like, oh, you fainted at the sight of blood, and now you fainted at the mention of blood, and then you knocked over a sheep, and then that went in. She just explained it too much. But I can let that go. But it was a really good idea to get rid of the warriors. Like, they could have easily just got the warriors to do it and make the villagers all wimps. But it's nice that they got rid of them so they could show that the villagers had to do something for once. And that beginning episode, that's all the warriors actually do. The beginning part of the episode. Which isn't interesting. It works, but it was all only there to sort of discuss that, oh, you have rules, I don't even know what the rules are. But we just... sort of like the pre-title sequence to The Family of Blood and Human Nature. That one was in the middle of an... sort of like near the end, but we knew what was happening. Like, here, they explained it. Here, All we know so far is that Clara went into some spider mines and then something got into a spacesuit and the TARDIS was exploding for blowing up for some reason. That was all we really knew, and next thing we know, we're in a Viking village. Very vigorous, I have to say. Like, it's like whoever wrote that scene was like, "Oh, we've got to get to the Viking village so we can meet Maisie Williams," and they forgot that you need to get to that point in a way that makes sense instead of just going, "Oh, they're in space, you don't want to see that, you want to see Maisie Williams." And that's practically what it felt like. got a bit of water here, my throat's going. Anyway, the way that the Doctor defeated the Maya, yes, I would have liked them to go out into more, or do more, but the way the Doctor defeated them was very much like the Doctor. Like, he didn't want to start a war or anything, and he didn't really want to fight, so he got a shielder who makes puppets and has a very big imagination to make them run away at a giant snake thing. Talking of them, I have to say this: the Maya's the design of the Maya under their helmets, it was good, but you don't really get to see it that much. It's like one sort of 30-second shot of it on the front, and then it's just them backing off, and then they teleport away. You don't really see it that much. And I managed to find a picture of it, and they look good, but to be honest, is that what Odin looked like? Because they seem to just... Obviously, most people thought they were robots, but then when they revealed there was something outside of or inside the armour, they didn't really show it that often. But as usual, or they really just needed a helmet so a shielder could do the weird telepathic thing. Talking of which, the ending. The scene where the Doctor realises why he chose this face, like Caecilius' face. Yes, there's a difference between this one and Fires of Pompeii. Like, Fires of Pompeii, it was everybody in Pompeii died, he knows that it has to stay that way, and Donna was convincing him to at least save one person. This one, on the other hand, no one really, this isn't a fixed point, or I'm not really sure, but it doesn't really seem like a fixed point. And the only reason why I think he remembered that is because he consciously told himself that he could at least save one person. And yes, it did make sense, because what he essentially did was get a bit carried away, made her immortal, and then just realised that he shouldn't have done it. Like, letting her die was the best thing he could have done. And we'll see more of that in The Woman Who Lived. But when that time lapse at the end, where we're just spinning around a shielder and her face is changing, like from happy to basically sad, and everything in the world is changing. That is good, and I hope that is good, and really they should have stuck with it more. But overall, this is an okay episode. Like, the humour was good, especially with the false Odin thing with the Doctor. But certain elements just seemed a bit It's like Magician's Apprentice. Some bits I like, and the others are just meh. You can tell when Stephen Moffat is writing and when Jamie Mattison's writing. Like, unlike Steve Thompson and Stephen Moffat with Time Heist, with Mummy on the Orient Express and Flatline under his belt, you can tell when Jamie Mattison's writing. But it is an okay episode, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Because you can enjoy some bits, but the writing, when there's two people writing it, should just merge seamlessly. Like, you shouldn't be able to tell who wrote which thing. And I can definitely tell which writer did what bit, because the weaker stuff is Stephen Moffat. But it's a decent story, and I can definitely rewatch this. It's not terrible. I mean, it's not In the Forest of the Night. That one is just horrible. But I'm not gonna say it's one of the ones I'll rewatch the most. It'll probably be one of the ones where I'll come back to it and just say, yeah, I haven't watched that one in a while, I'll put it on. So join me next time for The Woman Who Lived. And we'll see more Maisie Williams. And a cat who breathes fire. And Rufus Hound. And it doesn't seem as weird as it sounds, surprisingly.